presence cannot be sustained without crippling our military ability to respond to other contingencies. So let me be clear, there is no military solution in Iraq, and there never was. The best way to protect our security and the pressure of Iraq's leaders is to resolve their civil war, to immediately begin to remove our combat troops. Not in 6 months, not in 1 year, but now. We have to get out strategically, and we've got to get out carefully. But our drawdown should begin at a steady pace of 1 to 2 brigades every month. If we start now, all of our combat brigades should be out of Iraq by the end of next year. We'll need to retain some forces in Iraq and the region. We'll continue to strike at Al-Qaeda in Iraq. We'll protect U.S. diplomats and facilities. If Iraq makes progress and their security forces are not sectarian, we should continue to provide them help on training and equipping those forces. But we will set our own direction and our own pace, and our direction will be out of Iraq. Now, some have argued that we should just replace Prime Minister Maliki. And I admit that Prime Minister Maliki has not done what he needs to do to bring the country together, but the problems in Iraq are bigger than one man. Iraq needs a new constitutional convention that would include representatives from all of Iraqi society, in and out of government. The United Nations should play a central role in convening and participating in this convention, which should not adjourn until new accord on national reconciliation is reached. While we change the dynamics within Iraq, we need to also launch the most aggressive diplomatic effort in recent history. This would include all of Iraq's neighbors coming together, as well as the UN Security Council, to reach a compact to secure Iraq's borders, keep neighbors from meddling, isolate Al-Qaeda, and support Iraq's unity. And that means turning the page on the Bush-Cheney style of diplomacy that says you don't talk to people we don't like, the folks in Iran and Syria. Conventional thinking in Washington says presidents can't lead this diplomacy, but I think the American people know better. Strong presidents tell their adversaries where they stand, and that's what I would do. That's how proper principled diplomacy works. And that's what we need to prosperity in Iran to stop being part of the problem in Iraq. The final part of my plan is a major international initiative to address Iraq's humanitarian crisis. We're not hearing much about this right now. President Bush likes to warn of the dire consequences of us pulling out of Iraq. He warns of huge movements of refugees and mass sectarian killings. But that's taking place now.
That's right.
These are not the consequences of a future withdrawal. They're the reality of Iraq's present. There are 4 million Iraqis displaced from their homes today. To deal with Iraq's refugee crisis, it's time to form an international working group with the countries in the region, the UN, and our European and Asian friends. We should contribute up to $2 billion to support this effort. And Iraqis must know that those who engage in mass violence will be brought to justice. We should lead in forming a commission of the UN to monitor and hold accountable perpetrators of war crimes within Iraq. We must also put strict conditions on U.S. assistance to direct our support to those who want to hold Iraq together, not those who are tearing it apart. And as we draw down, we must declare our readiness to intervene with allies to stop genocidal violence. One tragic outcome of this war is that the Iraqis who stood with America are being targeted right now for assassination, and yet our doors are shut. You know, in April, we admitted exactly 1 Iraqi refugee into the United States. Just 1. That's not how we treat our friends. That's not how we take responsibility for our actions. That's not who we are as Americans. It's time to at least fill the 7,000 slots that we promised to Iraqi refugees and to be open to accepting even more Iraqis who are currently at risk. Keeping this moral obligation is a key part of how we serve the nation of Iraq. Because what's at stake in this war is more than just the war. It's our global leadership. Now is the time for us to be bold. We must not stay the course or take the conventional path because the other course is unknown. See, George Bush is afraid of the future. That's why all he can do is drag up the past. After all the flawed justifications of his Iraq policy, recently he evoked Vietnam as a reason to stay in Iraq. Now, this is not the time to re-argue the Vietnam War. We did that in the 2004 election and it wasn't pretty. I come from a new generation of Americans. I don't want to fight the battles of the 1960s. I want to reclaim the future of America. Just think about what we can accomplish together when we end this war. When we end this war, we can finally finish the fight in Afghanistan. When we end this war in Iraq, we can more effectively tackle the twin demons of extremism and hopelessness that threaten the peace of the world and the security of America. When we end this war in Iraq, we can once again lead the world against the common challenges of the 21st century, against the spread of nuclear weapons and climate change and deadly disease, against genocide in Darfur, against ignorance and poverty and corruption. When we end this war, we can reclaim the cause of freedom and democracy. We can be that beacon of hope and that light to the world. And most of all, when we end this war, we can recapture our unity of effort as Americans. You know, the American people have the right instincts on Iraq. It's time to heed their judgment. It's time to move beyond Iraq so we can move forward together. When we end this war in Iraq, we can come together to give our full attention to advancing the cause of health care for every American, an energy policy that works, a world-class education for every child. We can turn the page on a new public policy. We need a politics of unity, activation, hope, not fear. You know, I welcome all those folks who changed their position on the war over the last months and the last few years. We need more of those folks to change if we're going to change the direction of this war. That's why I keep speaking directly to my colleagues in Congress, Democrats and Republicans. We have the power to do this. We don't have to wait until George Bush is gone from office. We can begin to end this war today, right now. If we have learned anything from Iraq, it is that the judgment that matters most is the judgment that is made first. Martin Luther King once stood up at Riverside Church in New York and said, "In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. We are too late to stop a war that should have never been fought. We're too late to undo the pain of battle, the anguish of so many families, or the price of the fight. Too late to redo the years of division and distraction at home and abroad. But I'm here today because it's not too late to come together as Americans. Because we're not going to be able to deal with the challenge that confront us until we end this war. What we can do is we can say we will not be prisoners of uncertainty. That we reject the conventional thinking that led us into Iraq and that didn't ask the hard questions until it was too late. What we can say is that we're ready for something new, and something bold, and something principled. It's time for us to breathe again, Davenport. That begins with ending this war.